I've now moved on to building the front of the Dion truck, and these are some of the components that I've been working on just recently. So this is the front of the cab. It's a piece of brass I've cut to shape and then sanded. This is the front grille, and actually on the vehicle will sit proud of the firewall. As you can see, it's quite a complex shape, so I've cut it out from a piece of brass, and then basically used a small sanding machine that I have to get all the appropriate curves and whatnot. And then in the centre I've cut this hole, and I'll talk about how I do that in a moment. I've also made two sides, so this is one side, there will be a grille in here. That will be the bottom, and then this has got to be bent to go around this component, so that will fit like that. And then finally I've been doing this piece, which is making the surround that goes on there, and will be soldered in and finished up later. So the way I did that was to heat this piece of angle iron, red, thus annealing it, and then basically to use this template. And as you can see, it's a pretty good fit at the end of the day. It'll be alright once I've tidied it up a little bit more. So one of the next things to do basically is to fix this to this. I have got some mesh. I've also got to make a surround that goes around here, which I'll do, because the actual mesh is slightly proud of this by about an inch, so I've got to solve that little problem as well. But all in all, I'm making good progress. Just to talk about how to cut a slot in brass or a line in brass. What I use is a method that I learned from Gerald Wingrove. So this is a standard hacksaw blade, and I've cut it to shape it so that I've got this tip here, which is roughly at 90 degrees to the blade, and then I grind this so that it's ground on both sides to about 60 degrees, and effectively what you've got is a plough. So if you plough that along the surface of the brass, what it tends to do is to take a small shaving of brass, and you do it repeated number of times, and eventually you will get through the brass. Although generally you can start to bend the brass and split it long before you need to get through it. Normally for cutting, it's about a 60-degree angle on that. If you imagine that's a tip. If you want to just fold a piece of metal, then generally you grind this to around about 45 degrees angle there, so that when you fold it, you've got a 90-degree fold. And I've done that in the past as well. So quite a simple tool for cutting holes in brass. I've moved things on quite a bit in the last few days. So you remember this is the front of the truck, effectively the radiator cowl. I've now added sides to that, which you can see here. And I'm currently awaiting some metal so that I can actually make the back pieces, which will fix it to the firewall of the truck. I've also built the front radiator grille, which I think is upside down there. And that'll go in there like that, and will eventually be painted green. I've still got some work to do with this, because I've got to bring a bearing and put it out into this grille. So that's the grille completed. I've made the sides of the cab, so these are the two sides which sit like that. And I've also completed the seat, so this is the seat. I'm currently working on a handrail, a backrest that goes around here, and the actual backrest of the vehicle, which will be slightly above this. Still not finally finished, still a bit of bending and whatnot to do to get everything equal, but that's progress in the last few days. This is the last few days' progress with the cab for the the Dion truck. So as you can see now, I've got the seat mounted onto the side frames. There's also an infill piece at the back. One of the next things to do is actually put the floorboards in and check that it all fits neatly over the engine and doesn't interfere. So that's one part of the progress to date. The other piece I've done is I've now fitted what on the real vehicle is the front bearing for the fan. I'm not intending to put a fan in it because you'll never see it, but I've now got that soldered in place, as you can see. Last time I showed you the front of the vehicle, the front of the firewall effectively, and I was struggling to find out how I could get this overlap on it. So in the end, I decided that I'd actually build a last, which is this piece here, put the piece of brass over it of the right size, and then beat it into place. And you can see this discoloration of the brass, which is where it was heated to a cherry red in order to anneal the brass, which means that it makes it soft and it batters. You can batter it over somewhat easier. The other thing I had to make as well was I made a small brass hammer, just a little handheld device with which to hammer over the brass onto this last. So the original one that I made and which I thought I would use has now basically been put in the trash can. And then the final thing that I spent some time yesterday doing is making the louver side panels, which go, that's the wrong one, which go on the side of the vehicle, like so. This one, as you can see, that the louvers are shorter because there's the handbrake lever and the gear lever go into that position, so that's to clear them. But I made both sets of louvers, so there's the two sets of louvers, more or less ready for painting. I've reinforced them on the back with a little bit of 1mm by 1mm square brass rod. So that's those two made. And I just thought I'd explain how I make these particular louvers. There are a number of ways, I'm sure, but this is my chosen one. So this is a small tool that I made probably about 2 years ago when I was making, I think it was the Panhard model that featured earlier. I certainly used it on the Richard Brazier model, and I've now used it on the Dion truck. And what I'm about to do is to pop out into the garage and show and make a small video of how I actually make the louvers in a piece of brass using this device. So back again in a moment. Well, this is my milling machine. I'm just going to close in so you can see the bed better as I explain how I make these various louvers in brass. So the first thing to do is to mount the wheel into the chuck of the milling machine. I'll get that in a second. So there we go, that's done. What you will notice is, just bring the front forward, what you will notice is in this piece of steel lying on the bed, I've actually cut some grooves, and this wheel engages with the edge of that groove, as you can see, as hopefully you can see there. Let me just expand that a little bit. So there. And then the next thing to do is to locate a piece of brass. So here's a little offcut of brass which I'm just going to pop in there. This is only a rough explanation, so I'm not putting any real great precision into it. And then fix that piece of brass down onto there. Give it a good tighten. So as you can see, I've now got a piece of brass
clamped onto this piece of steel, and then the next thing to do is to simply lower the cutting wheel on, give it a quick push. Oops, it's not tight enough. Let's tighten that up again. Give it a quick push into the brass, and then simply move it along to the back again, which creates the first bit of the louver. Go down again, and I'm going to come back again. So I keep catching the camera a little bit. What I'm then going to do is lift that out, undo the piece of brass, and as you can see, I've created a louver. Not a particularly good one, I have to say. Probably a bit rushed, but there you go. That's the start. That's the start of a louver. I think what I've done here is I've got more pressure down on one side and on the other, which is bit of a shame really, but at least the principle of how you make a louver is demonstrated here. So I think what I'll do now is I'll complete this video and post it online. There's a lot of work in the front section of the truck, and I'll probably end up making 1 or 2 videos in order to keep the videos short and interesting. Thank you.